of America's 2018 Blue Wave, Easton, Connecticut. I'm Maggie Silverstein. I'm chair of the Easton Democrats elections team. We're very proud to have a national leader here, Congressman Jim Himes. He's going to introduce our 4 fantastic candidates running for office. First, I'd like to introduce to you Maureen Williams. When Maureen was elected to the Region 9 Board of Ed last fall, she was the first Democrat in Easton to win a contested race in more than 10 years. Maureen's election started the blue wave that we're part of today in Easton. Please join me in, this is intended to embarrass her, congratulate, thank, and welcome Maureen.
Thank you, Maggie, and good morning and welcome to Easton. John Paul Roller, in an article titled Empathy Unmasked in the University of Chicago magazine, discusses at length the relationship between vulnerability and empathy. What does this article, you think, have to do with us today? Well, the article suggests that by placing individuals, even those like actors studying method acting, in situations of extreme vulnerability, the individuals acquire a relatedness that allows them to step inside the shoes of another, or ways to move past the empathy deficit that President Obama referred to in his book, The Audacity of Hope. I'd expand that theory to our individual and collective experiences today. All of us, for reasons unique to each of us, have been placed in situations of vulnerability by current events. If there is a silver lining to the events in our country in the past 2 years, it's this. We've all acquired, to some degree, the radical empathy that comes from vulnerability. That radical empathy is compelling us to step outside our comfort zones, to speak and act and run for office, and to be the change we wish to see in the world. This is the citizen-led activism that compelled Ann Hughes to run. It is the We Work mantra that is central to the spirit of Michelle McCabe. It is the capable, committed, and compassionate spirit that drives Lori Underberger, and it is the thoughtful, determined, and can-do competence central to Ira Kaplan's decision to be our newest selectman. And of course, it's central to the character of Jim Himes, who we welcome here today. Congressman Himes has been driven by this radical empathy for longer than most of us, and so we will look to him to be our guiding light as we seek to spread the spirit of radical empathy in the town of Easton and turn it blue in November. Thank you, and welcome, Congressman.
Well, thank you, everybody. I'm just delighted to join this incredible crowd. As I walked across the parking lot, I didn't know there were this many Democrats in Easton, so thank you for doing it. And by the way, I suspect we have maybe a few non-Democrats here, and if so, we really welcome you. And I want to say, yes, we do. Yes, we do. And here's why. When I decided in 2007 to run for the House of Representatives, at the time, we were in a brutal war, which was a terrible strategic mistake for this country. And you could tell that the economy was going the way that we ultimately saw it develop in 2008, with one of the most devastating economic crashes since 1929, since the Great Depression. And of course that damaged millions of Americans, eliminated their retirement funds, destroyed people's faith in the institutions and the economy of this country. That's why I ran, and I thought we got to get out of the Iraq War. We've got to think hard about our healthcare system, about the terrible state of the financial services market, which put us in 2008. That's why I wanted to do it. I didn't think that I would, 10 years later, be setting aside those priorities which unite all of us, of justice, of fairness, of being good stewards to this incredible natural environment that we are given, in defense of something more profound. In defense of the idea that we're a good and decent country, that we are, while we struggle, a moral country, that we embrace immigrants, because we're all immigrants, that we put up with people who are different than we are in accent or in religion or in skin color. And we don't just put up with them, we embrace them and we welcome them. That we're a country of laws in which no person is above the laws. I mean, these are sort of the basic foundations of why we are all proud to be Americans, and why I hope that we're not all Democrats here, because that's not a partisan issue. The values that make this country strong, that are so at risk because of the individual in the Oval Office, require us, regardless of party, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of religion, to stand up and say, this is not who we are. And we're going to do that. And I have every confidence that this country will, as it has, rejected some of the worst and most bigoted instincts of the occupant of the Oval Office, so that we can get back to those things that are important to us as Democrats. And I remember 8 years ago when we did some really, really hard work together to pass the Affordable Care Act. And my career has been defined by the controversy of the Affordable Care Act. But hear this, there are 20 million Americans today who have health insurance because of the hard work that we did. We are in a world where you will not be denied insurance because you have diabetes or because you had a scare with breast cancer. Those are good things that we did together, and we need to continue that kind of progress. We need to make education more available to more people in this country, more affordable. We need to get away from, you saw it this week, the White House is going to remove the regulation that keeps the worst coal-burning plants from polluting our air here in Connecticut. We have some of the worst air in the United States because of the upwind coal plants in the Midwest. We need to reverse all that stuff and get back to the progress we were making. So here's what we need to do. We need to stand up for our country and those basic values. We need to revert to fighting for those things that we accomplished so much back in 2010. And we also need to, and I hate to strike this partisan note, but I need to do it. We need to deliver a powerful electoral rebuke to the Republican Party, which has said yes to Donald Trump's bigotry, which has said yes to Donald Trump's divisiveness, that has said yes to a tax bill which handed our kids money to corporations and the wealthiest Americans. There are a lot of decent Republicans, we all know them, and the question is, why are you not standing up? My Republican colleagues, many of whom I am friends with, why are you not standing up to the president and saying, this is not who we are? As long as they don't, they will understand the language, and only one language, which is the language of defeat. And we can do it right here in Easton. I'm told that, like Darien and New Canaan, pretty Republican places, I'm told that I've actually never won the town of Easton. I think I do okay here for a Democrat. But on the other hand, Easton, and this is a real tribute to Easton, voted not for Donald Trump, but for Hillary Clinton. So we know we can do it. And we do it by electing these spectacular candidates. I was just door knocking with them in Easton, having a great, great time. They are all wonderful in their own right. They will add their voice to the voice of saying this is not who we are a better country. They will take their positions and get back to supporting education and health care for all and the decency that we expect of not just the Democrats, but of the American people. So it is such a privilege for me to be here with all of them and to ask you to really work your hearts out for all of those reasons, for the values that we care about as Americans, for the good work that they will do, and for the progress that we know they will bring at the municipal and state level. So I don't quite know the order. I know we're going to hear briefly from all of them, but thank you for the unglamorous work. I knock a lot of doors myself. I make phone calls. It's unglamorous work, but that's what we're doing. We're restoring goodness. We're restoring a sense of pride in who we are, a sense of welcome, a sense of good administration, and these are the people to do it, and I'm very, very proud to be here with them, and more importantly, to be here with those of you who will install them in office. Thank you, everybody.
I'm going to introduce each of our candidates for a brief set of remarks from each of them, and I would start with Ann Hughes.
Thank you for showing up. I am Ann Hughes. I'm running to be your next state representative. And, you know, I gotta say, we are probably all a little bit procrastinators. I know I am. And it takes a crisis to urge us to come together and to break out of the uncomfortable zone that maybe I know I was in for probably too long, because so much is at risk on every level. Like Jim Himes said, what matters on the national level also affects us locally, and we have to change how we hold our leaders accountable. And I think the best antidote to the damage that we are seeing from this administration and from the lack of courage of our Republican counterparts is to rise up as a storm of public will, coming together as public will. I mean, We are the blue wave candidates, but you all together showing up here is the storm. Together we are the storm, and this is what leadership looks like. Not just showing up, but saying yes to every open seat we're going to get somebody to run for. We're going to say yes to showing up and holding our local officials accountable. We're going to write letters to the editor. We're going to join town boards. We're going to have meet and greets, or as we call them in this neck of the woods, tag sales. Just put some tables out and a sign, and the candidates will come and meet your neighbors. This is what democracy looks like. We get a little creative here, but we have to show up and keep showing up and amplifying this wave. So we need all of you to go to your circles of friends, neighbors, family in the wider district and say, we are not getting complacent ever again, because we see what can happen, and we are going to do everything in our power to not just elect these blue wave candidates, but to stay engaged. We are the storm. We are breaking the glass in emergency only, and the glass is our comfort zone, and this is an emergency. We are in democracy emergency. It's time to break the glass, get out of our comfort zones, and say, what does that look like for me to put the effort in to not just elect these candidates, but to stay engaged, because I think we have the public will to turn this around. And I expect you all to keep me accountable. I'm going to stay in good communication with you and with our elected officials and with Congress. And we are going to change what democracy looks like from this moment on with your help.
For selectman in Easton.
Thank you all for coming. What kind of society do we want to create, live in, and pass on? For example, do we want a society where those with pre-existing conditions cannot get health insurance, and where illness can lead to bankruptcy or premature death? Or do we have a different vision for our society? In 2010, Jim Himes and 218 other House members passed the Affordable Care Act, knowing that the vote endangered their political future in many cases. Indeed, dozens of Democrats lost their seats, but they voted their conscience because they knew why they were there. Because they were public servants, there to serve the public, not to serve their own careers. John Kennedy wrote profiles in Courage about politicians who took risks to put country over party and over short-term political expediency. How many chapters could we fill today if we wrote profiles in cowardice? Yeah. No one should hold a position of public responsibility unless they're willing to lose their power by being responsible to the public, by standing up for something bigger than themselves and not just trying to win the next election. New Englanders are known for having an independent streak, and in fact 42% of Easton is not registered with either major party. So I believe that these independent-minded voters, come November, will vote their conscience against groupthink and blind obedience. They will vote for Democrats who stand for a brighter vision for our state and our country. They will vote to speak truth to power, and vote against those who lust only for power and who make a mockery of truth. My name is Ira, and I hope I have your support and support for all these candidates. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Lori Underberger, who is our candidate for probate judge of Easton, Monroe, and Trumbull.
And thank you all for coming out today. I'd like to share a little about myself. I grew up in Trumbull, and I've lived in Easton for the past 20 years with my husband Dan and our 3 daughters, who've all gone to public school here. And then I attended George Washington University Law School in Washington, D.C. I've been a practicing attorney for over 30 years, and for the past 20 years I've been practicing in Connecticut. The probate judge is actually the only elected judicial position in Connecticut. and that enables the community to decide who's overseeing what is often sensitive family issues, such as appointment of a guardian when parents are no longer able to care for a child, or appointment of a conservator for an adult who has an intellectual disability. It also oversees the administration of estates, distribution of assets, and, on a happier note, finalizes adoptions. So, and one of the goals of the probate court is to promote family-centered solutions. So I really hope to be a part of a probate court that is efficient and compassionate, treating all families and individuals with respect and preserving personal autonomy where possible, while at the same time providing a safety net for those who need it. Thank you again for coming, and I hope we have your vote in November.
And last but certainly not least, I would like to introduce Michelle McCabe, who is running for Central Districts of Easton, Fairfield, and
Newtown, Weston, and Westport.
Newtown, Weston, and Westport, and I apologize for not knowing that, Michelle.
No worries. Hi, everybody. Again, I'm Michelle McCabe, running for State Senate, and I am so happy that Easton is one of the 5 towns that I will be representing in November, because it was actually Easton in many ways that birthed my political career. I began being interested in advocacy because of local agriculture. And I got so much inspiration from Easton and from the way that you support this entire area to provide food and security for us, that for me to be able to come back as a senatorial candidate is really meaningful for me. And I can also go to Chagakoo's up the road afterwards because they have fish today, which is bragging. I know we've spent a lot of time today talking about the national landscape, which has obviously caused a great deal of anxiety. But I also know that the current state of affairs in Connecticut is also most likely fueling your interest in being here today. And I just want to stress that even though so far we've talked a lot about the national scene, one, that the national scene is definitely going to have an impact on us, as we know, between the tax code and the pollution and other policies that are going to directly and negatively impact us that come from Washington, which emphasizes that you need to look very carefully at the candidates in Connecticut and see where their votes and where their loyalty lie. Does it lie with you? Does it lie with the state? Or are they answering to another level of input, another level of interest that in fact does not truly represent what we need here in Connecticut? I would encourage all of you not only to take some time to talk to us today after this, because it would be great to get to know you, but also I would encourage you to try canvassing, which I know of all of the volunteer activities may seem like the most daunting, but I can tell you, having been doing it for months, it is the most rewarding experience you will ever have, because you will really get to know your neighbors. You will really get to hear what their concerns are. And I will tell you that what I was thinking when I started in this process has been entirely shifted by you, by listening to you, by hearing about what your concerns are, and then thinking, how can we address these concerns through policy? And that's what this is all about. It's about electing officials that are hearing what you have to say and have creative solutions to your problems, not to come to your door and criticize our state or to criticize it on the public sphere. We're supposed to all be in this together regardless of party. So I thank you all for taking the time out of your day to be here. I hope I'll have the opportunity to talk to you once we're done with the festivities, and thank you for your support.
Thank you, everybody. Our congressman has a few more minutes, I think, so what we'd like to do is wrap this up in a minute, then you can mingle and you tell him how great he is. I'm sure he'd love to hear it. On a serious note, we really want to recognize him for being our champion for the values that matter. Connecticut stays blue and that Easton turns blue. We have a lot of work to do. We want to make sure that Ned Lamont and Susan Bysowitz get elected. We have to have a Democratic governor and lieutenant governor in Hartford, and we want to make sure our statewide candidates are Washington representatives go back to Washington and that our statewide candidates win. Even more important to those of us here are our races in Easton.
And we can ask your help today to work with us to flip Easton and to make Easton blue. We have some postcards if you'd like to sign up, or you can speak to any one of us, and we'd be glad to give you specific targeted ways to help us out. And they can be as big a help as you want to give or as small a help as you want to give.
Big.
Well, obviously, big is better, but we'll take any help you want to offer, and we thank you all for being here today.